The moment Private Ethan Mercer stepped off the bus, the weight of the war didn't just linger in his shoulders, it clung to his very soul. The streets of his hometown seemed unchanged, yet the world he'd left behind and the man who had returned were two completely different beings. He carried with him memories that refused to fade, the screams in the night, the silence of lost friends, and the endless questions about whether he would ever be the same. But the hardest part, he realized as he approached the modest row of houses that lined Willow Lane, wasn't the war itself, it was facing the life he had left behind, especially his 10-year-old daughter, Lily, who had grown up a little without him. Ethan's house, once a lively home filled with bedtime stories and laughter, now felt hollow, echoing the absence of his presence. As he reached the front door, he hesitated. He had trained his body to fight battles, but he hadn't prepared for the delicate act of reclaiming his place in his own family. Just as he turned the doorknob, a neighbor's voice interrupted his spiraling thoughts. "Welcome home, soldier," said Mr. Harper, an elderly man who lived next door. His eyes, soft but knowing, studied Ethan for a long moment. "Your daughter's been waiting for this day more than you realize. Don't make her wait another second." The word struck Ethan harder than any explosion he had ever faced. In an instant, his fear and hesitation were replaced with a desperate urgency. He stepped inside and found Lily sitting at the kitchen table, a notebook in her hands, scribbling stories she had imagined about him being on his missions. Her eyes widened in disbelief and joy when she saw him. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of hope and caution. "Yes, sweetheart, it's me," Ethan replied, his voice thick with emotion. He knelt to her level, and for the first time in years, Lily ran into his arms, burying her face in his chest. The embrace was more than a reunion, it was a bridge across the years they had lost. Yet, even in that moment of joy, Ethan knew the real battle had just begun. Reconnecting with Lily was one thing, but reintegrating into her world, into a community that had moved on without him, and into his own fractured sense of self was an uphill climb. He struggled with the simplest tasks, fixing her homework questions, understanding her favorite shows, even laughing at jokes he didn't quite get. The war had hardened him, but life at home demanded tenderness, patience, and presence. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan found himself retreating more often than he reached out. He saw his reflection in Lily's eyes, sensing her disappointment in his absence even when he was physically present. One evening, after a particularly quiet dinner, Ethan sat on the porch, feeling the weight of failure pressing down. That was when Mr. Harper appeared again, carrying a small box of freshly baked cookies. "You can't do this alone, son," Mr. Harper said gently. "And you don't have to. Let your neighbors, your friends, even strangers, let them in. We can't undo the past, but we can help build your future." It was a simple sentence, yet it unlocked something in Ethan. He realized that pride had been his greatest enemy, keeping him isolated and trapped in the shadows of his own fears. From that day on, he started small, chatting with neighbors, asking for advice on parenting, joining Lily at the school bake sale, even sharing stories of his own childhood. Slowly, the walls around his heart began to crumble, replaced by trust, connection, and hope. One Saturday morning, Ethan decided to take Lily to the park, a place where he had once chased her in carefree afternoons. As they walked hand in hand, she paused and looked up at him. "Daddy," she said, "can you tell me about the war again?" Ethan hesitated. The temptation to shield her from pain was strong, but he realized that honesty could be their strength. He knelt down, meeting her gaze, and told her stories, not just of battles and fear, but of courage, resilience, and the love that had never left him, even when he was far away. Lily listened intently, absorbing each word like a life lesson she would carry forever. As months passed, Ethan found his rhythm as both a father and a man reclaiming his life. He joined the local veterans support group, volunteering his time to help others struggling with the invisible scars of war. He coached Lily's soccer team, painted their home together, and even hosted neighborhood barbecues, small gestures that repaired relationships he hadn't realized had frayed. Then came the day that proved to Ethan the true power of community and perseverance. The school announced a talent show, and Lily asked him to participate with her. Nervous but determined, he agreed. When their performance, a heartfelt skit depicting a father and daughter overcoming obstacles together, ended, the applause was deafening. But it wasn't the applause that mattered, it was the look in Lily's eyes, filled with pride, love, and the unspoken knowledge that her father was finally home, in every sense of the word. That night, as Ethan tucked Lily into bed, he whispered, "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Lily smiled sleepily and said, "I know, Daddy. I knew you'd come back to me." And in that moment, Ethan realized that the sentence from his neighbor, spoken so casually but carried with so much wisdom, had changed everything. It had opened the door to healing, to connection, and to the kind of love that could survive even the darkest storms. The war had taken much from him, but it had also taught him the immeasurable value of being present, of leaning on others, and of embracing the messy, beautiful chaos of life. Years later, Ethan would look back on that return from war not as a moment of ending, but as a beginning. A beginning of new stories, laughter, and love. And he would never forget the neighbor who had said just one sentence that reminded him that even the strongest warriors need a village, and that no one is truly alone when they allow themselves to be loved.